saying that Marxism is anti-property, true socialism is not. At a later time, Hitler said socialism. That is an unfortunate word altogether. What does socialism really mean? If people have something to eat and their pleasures, then they have their socialism. In private, Hitler also said that I am absolutely insist on protecting private property. We must encourage private initiative. On yet another occasion, he qualified that statement by saying that the government should have the power to regulate the use of private property for the good of the nation. So he's trying to balance different conceptions in his political economy and theories. Hitler clearly believed the lack of precise economic program was one of the Nazi Party's strengths, saying that the basic feature of our economic theory is that we have no theory at all. While not espousing specific economic philosophy, Hitler employed anti-Semitic themes to attack economic systems in other countries, associating ethnic Jews with both communism, Jewish Bolshevikism, and capitalism, both of which he opposed. Hitler also believed that individuals within a nation battled with each other for survival, and that ruthless competition was good for the health of the nation because it promoted superior individuals to higher positions in society. But yet, he also said that there is no, in Mein Kampf, he also said that there is no other more honourable goal for people than to serve their nation, for whether it be economic or in the military sphere. He especially talked about the military sphere because he was a former soldier and an Iron Cross winner in World War One. But his belief in atomistic competition between individuals is sort of at odds with his nationalism in one sense and his socialism, and it led to chaotic problems of disorganisation within the Nazi regime. They were chaotic. It is surprising that Germany did such a ferocious attack on the Western powers, particularly after 1940 and 1939, and also on the Soviet Union, that they were so successful in the Soviet Union for a time, because of their economic policy and their way of doing things. They had exceptional leaders, but such as Guderian, such as Manstein, such as Rommel. But were these products of the National Socialist regime? You can argue that they were not, or that their model came back from the Prussian model, which of course the United States Army it comes from, and the Prussian model had some influence on the British Army as well, because the British trained the Prussians originally. We're going back to 1776 there. Pre-war economy in Nazi Germany in 1939 to 1933 to 1939. National Socialists came to power in the aftermath of the Great Depression. When the Nazis came to power, the most pressing issue was unemployment rate of close to 30%. Before World War II, the Nazis placed on non-Nazi professionals in charge of economic policy. Hitler appointed Hjalmar Schacht, a former member of the German Democratic Party, as chairman of the Reich in 1933 and Minister of Economics in 1934. At first, Schacht continued the economic policies introduced by the government of Kurt von Schroeder in 1932 to combat the effects of the Great Depression. These policies were mostly Keynesian, relying on large public works programs supported by the deficit spending, such as the construction of an autobahn network to stimulate the economy and reduce unemployment. As I said before, you cannot get away from the context of the Keynesian argument in both pre-Nazi Germany and Nazi Germany, and also after the Nazi Germany. There was a major reduction in unemployment over the following years, while price controls prevented the recurrence of inflation. The economic policies of the Third Reich were in the beginning the brainchild of Schacht, who assumed office as president of the central bank under Hitler in 1933 and became finance minister in the following year. Schacht was also one of the few finance ministers to take advantage of the freedom provided by the end of the gold standard to keep interest rates low and government budget deficits high, with massive public works funded by large budget deficits. The consequences of extremely rapid decline in unemployment, the rapid decline in unemployment in any country during the most rapid decline in unemployment in any country during the Great Depression. Eventually, this Keynesian economic policy was supplemented by the boost to demand provided by rearmament and the swelling of military spending. Now, the Germans only ever achieved an armed forces of around 12 million men, compared to the 32 million men of the Soviet Union, and only 3 million men were ever on the Russian front at any one time. So you cannot overstate that not everyone was in, as Friedrich von Hayek said, not everyone was in the army and fleet, and we would end up with nothing to eat. The Germans were balancing their economics of the social consumer spending, which was high and remained high until Albert Speer eventually got Germany onto a total war footing in 1943, because of course the Germans didn't put their women into labour in the armaments industry, unlike the British and the Americans. You know, they relied on male workers. It continues. Meanwhile, the Nazis replaced the corrupt Weimar trade unions with what many Germans saw as the new and improved unions called the German Labour Front, and banned strikes. This broke what Hitler said in Mein Kampf, of course, as I mentioned earlier. They also directed Schacht to place more emphasis on military production and rearmament. A number of economists, including Michael Kalkich, have seen this as an example of military Keynesianism. And you can see this again, military Keynesianism, in the big government Republicans of George Bush, who, far from Eisenhower's warning of the fusion of industry and the military into the industrial military complex, Bush fused that even more together, and so you saw a strong economic incentive to produce arms under the Bush regime, under the Bush government, in both Bush Senior and George Bush Junior, but not with Reagan. And big government spending on social programs and infrastructure programs during the first Bush reign in office. So you can see some similarities there, but I would not say that they're overtly, that the Bushes are overtly National Socialists in their economic policy. They're military Keynesians in many regards. In June 1933, the Reinhardt's programme for infrastructure development was introduced. It combined indirect incentives such as tax reductions with direct public investment in waterways, railroads and highways. It was followed by similar initiatives resulting in greater expansion of the German construction industry. Between 1933 and 1936, employment in construction rose from only 666,000 to well over 2 million. This was part of Hitler's war preparations. Germany needed a state-of-the-art highway system for the mobility of its motorised land forces. Also, on the civilian side, cars and other forms of motorised transport became increasingly attractive to the population.